Welcome back to XRP Update. Something big just happened in the crypto market. XRP suddenly exploded higher, and many investors are asking the same question. What changed? Was it XRP-specific news? Was it institutional buying? Or is something bigger happening behind the scenes that could impact the entire crypto market? The answer starts with a major global development that investors everywhere are watching closely. Reports surrounding a potential peace agreement involving Iran immediately caught the market's attention. And while most people focus on politics, experienced investors focus on what happens next. Because when geopolitical tensions ease, global trade becomes smoother. When trade routes reopen, oil can move more freely. When oil prices fall, inflation pressure often eases. And when inflation comes down, central banks gain more flexibility with interest rates. That's where things become interesting for risk assets like stocks and cryptocurrencies. Markets reacted almost immediately. Crypto moved higher, stocks turned green, and XRP joined the rally. But here's the important thing. While these events may explain short-term price action, they are not the reason many XRP supporters remain bullish long-term. The bigger story is what continues happening behind the scenes. Because while most people focus on daily price movements, others are watching the infrastructure being built around XRP and the XRP Ledger. One topic that continues creating confusion inside the crypto community is the relationship between XRP and RLUSD. Every few weeks, the same debate appears. Some claim stablecoins will somehow replace XRP. Others argue that XRP's role will become less important over time. But many analysts continue pointing out the same reality. The XRP ledger was designed around liquidity. Every new asset, every new token, and every new real-world asset that enters the ecosystem contributes to growing overall liquidity. And that's where XRP remains important. The bigger the network becomes, the more liquidity is needed. The more tokenized assets that enter the system, the larger the ecosystem grows. And many supporters believe that all roads eventually lead back to XRP's role as a bridge asset inside that growing ecosystem. Now, another interesting development is market sentiment. According to recent data, sentiment across parts of the crypto market remains surprisingly negative. And historically, that's often when opportunities begin to appear. Because markets rarely move in a straight line, fear eventually turns into confidence. Confidence turns into excitement. And excitement eventually becomes euphoria. Then the cycle starts all over again. Many long-term XRP holders have seen this pattern repeatedly. Periods where sentiment becomes extremely negative are often followed by sudden shifts that catch most people off guard. And that brings us to one of the most important comments recently made by Ripple President Monica Long. When asked about Ripple and XRP moving into 2026, her answer was simple: institutional adoption at scale. Think about that phrase for a moment. Not adoption, not testing, not pilots, institutional adoption at scale. That's the part many investors continue watching closely. Because the conversation around blockchain is no longer limited to retail investors. Banks are paying attention, asset managers are paying attention, financial institutions are paying attention, and many believe the next phase of crypto growth will be driven by institutional participation. In fact, some analysts argue that current price weakness across parts of the market doesn't match what's happening behind the scenes. At the same time regulations are advancing, digital asset legislation is progressing, and tokenization initiatives continue expanding. Yet many crypto prices remain far below where supporters believe they should be. This has led some investors to believe that the market is still in the accumulation phase, a period where stronger hands continue positioning before broader adoption becomes obvious to everyone else. And while nobody can predict exactly when that shift happens, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. Major financial players are preparing for a future where digital assets become part of everyday finance. We're seeing more regulated products enter the market, more institutional custody solutions, more tokenization initiatives, more blockchain infrastructure, and more conversations around digital assets than ever before. Another sign of growing interest comes from ETF activity. Recent data showed XRP-related investment products attracting positive inflows, while several larger crypto products experienced outflows. For many supporters, that's another indication that interest in XRP remains strong despite market volatility. At the same time, regulatory progress continues moving forward. Lawmakers continue discussing digital asset legislation, stablecoin frameworks, and broader crypto regulations. And while timelines remain uncertain, many industry leaders believe clearer rules are coming. The reason is simple. Blockchain technology is no longer viewed as an experiment. It is becoming part of the future financial system. And as regulations become clearer, institutions gain more confidence to participate. That confidence could eventually unlock entirely new levels of adoption. Now combine that with another major trend already beginning to emerge: the agentic economy. AI systems are becoming more capable, automated payments are becoming more common, Digital assets are becoming easier to integrate into financial infrastructure. Many believe the next generation of payments, settlement systems, and digital commerce will rely heavily on blockchain technology operating behind the scenes. And supporters believe XRP is positioned directly within that conversation. The reality is simple. Nobody knows exactly when the next major move happens. Nobody knows how fast adoption will occur. But what we do know is that infrastructure continues expanding. Institutions continue entering the space. Regulations continue progressing, and utility continues growing. For long-term XRP supporters, that's where the real story remains. Not daily fear, not daily headlines, but the gradual build-out of a financial system that looks very different from the one we have today. And if that future unfolds the way many expect, the coming years could look very different from everything we've seen so far. That's all for today's XRP update. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss future XRP updates. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.